and Transitions Experts podcast. Here, I'm your host, Courtney Rollins, here with the State Pro Service, or from a State Pro Service, where we help you through the probate process and through other big life challenges and big life transitions, such as life and transitions title would indicate. Today, we're going to talk about if you find yourself having an inherited property that has a tenant in it, but you still want to sell it. Can you sell a property with a tenant in place, particularly if you've inherited it in North Carolina? So we're going to take a look at that. In fact, this is a situation that occurs quite often. My company, we're looking at properties all the time. And quite often, one of the biggest challenges for folks is they may have inherited a property that already has a tenant. And so trying to figure out what are the steps legally and what are the steps logistically that's going to help make that a smoother transaction can be difficult. So let's see if I can share my screen here. All right, let's see. I'll go back there. Put myself on stage. And it's not working. I should have had it set up. I thought I had this set up yesterday, and I think I put maybe even more than just yesterday. I think I did 2 podcasts or 2 videos that had no sound because I was getting all fancy with these split screens here and my notes here on the side and did not have the screen up. So I apologize if you looked at some old content that didn't have the sound up there. It's been taken down by now. So, but regardless, let's get it going, rock and roll. How to sell your house with a tenant in place. We're going to look at 7 things. Number 1, well, of course, since a lot of my conversations here focus on the probate process, this isn't necessarily applicable to you because the property may have not gone through probate. Whether it has or not is not really applicable. It's just usually I like to explain to people what probate is, which is the process of selling the affairs of someone who's passed away. So let's move on, though. Okay, so you're going to want to, especially if you inherit the property, find the lease. Find the leases. Hopefully the tenant has them. Hopefully the person who may have passed away or handed off, or you handed off to you, has some files somewhere. But review the lease. Make sure that you are following the terms of the lease, particularly when it says, when it's talking about transition of ownership, because you may need to give the tenant a right of refusal. They may have within their lease, or it may state specifically that they don't get the right of refusal to have the opportunity to buy the house before it is sold. Open communication, that is essential. Make sure you're maintaining as much transparency as possible with your tenant. This is so key because we want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Even with the buyer, you want to make sure that they understand that, hey, there's a tenant in place. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to take place. If you're working with a realtor, make sure they have that, and everyone is just on the same page. Transparency and even over communication is going to just help, particularly if you are going to have some difficult conversations. Hopefully you won't have to. And quite often having open communication is a way of building trust. And what they say, trust is speed. There's speed in trust. Yes. And timing. Timing is very key. Make sure that you recognize that if you sell the property. So for instance, one thing that I like to do when I buy a property that has a tenant in place and already has they're paying and things of that nature, is I like to buy the property within that first week because I get the rent for that week prorated. So already come in with some type of cash coming in. So just note, if you want to perhaps keep some of the funds or whatever it is in your situation, or it could be used as negotiation tips. Hey, you could close here so that you can get this cash to the buyer. Just knowing that is very important, and just making sure that the timing is. I mean, there's a lot of things you can say with timing, particularly when, especially if you're talking to a CPA and financial advisor who's savvy and who's trying to help you with some of the tax implications of a sale. There's a lot of things that you can do there. So timing is key. I should remind you all, I'm not playing an attorney or a financial advisor on my YouTube channel. I'm not one in real life. I'm sharing my opinions, but I definitely want to continue to share that because some of these opinions are valid. Well, I think they're valid in my opinion, but hopefully they can help you. And that's what I'm on a mission to do. All right. And incentives for cooperation. There can be times that the tenant either could be possibly difficult, or you may anticipate some difficulty, or you just want to grease the wheels to make sure that when these things, when you do the transaction, that it happens properly. This is particularly important when a tenant is like refusing to move out. Perhaps the lease is up and you're month to month. You might have to go ahead and incentivize them by saying, hey, let's pay cash for keys. Or during the time that the inspection is taking place, which we're going to the next step and showing it in the property, you may want to give them a little gift card, tell them go get something to eat. It's going to be a little crazy here for an hour. Thank you for letting us come into the space in the home that you're in and doing what we need to do for the inspections for a transaction. But making sure that you have incentive for cooperation can be very helpful. And I think it also goes back to the open communication. If you're taking over the property, you want to make sure that it's operating. Perhaps you offer to even lower the rent if they decide to extend their rent lease for 2-3 years so that you have this income coming in. There's so many things you can do to incentivize cooperation. I really think this does go back to open communication, which really is the undergird of just mutual respect for parties involved. Please note that you're going to have to arrange with the tenant that communication when you have people going in and showing the property and during the inspection period. So make sure that, again, communicating with folks and knowing that that's what the situation is going to be. If you could just condition folks and let them know ahead of time what things are, there's quite often that can alleviate a lot of issues. Quite often with my sellers or with my buyers or sellers, I'll say, hey, look, Mr. Seller, all right, we're in a contract. I know you have a tenant there. Or if I'm talking to the tenant, I'll even ask for the tenant information. Just let everyone know, hey, for this at 12 o'clock, going to have folks in there. It's going to be a circus for about an hour. We're going to get in and out. I have my investors in there. I'm going to have my inspectors in there, my contractors, and we're just going to get it in and out, easy peasy for you and all. That's what we attempt to do. But we precondition them and let them know what the situation is. So when we get there at 12 o'clock, it's bustling and rustling. They understand, and it's easier to facilitate that space because the expectations were set and it's not a surprise. Next, this is one, again, the open communication. When you're speaking to someone who's already living in the space and perhaps this is a property that's inherited to you, you want to, again, establish that relationship, make sure the communication, hey, we're thinking about selling this property now. We have folks coming in, what's going to help us move this and get this transaction smoother and help you stay settled, or if they're moving out, help us get this done quicker is if we make sure the space looks clean and well presented. Perhaps even offer to provide $200 for a cleaning service while they're there, so they get a free cleaned space that they're in while you're able to show the property, and you get your eyes on some of the other big ticket items that may need some more support because perhaps they had some deferred maintenance there. Yep. All right. And lastly, consider selling to an investor, which is what investors do. Investors, we have to make money. We have to make a profit. I'm in here to solve problems and to help folks. That's how I provide service, and that's how I am compensated for it. So I can't do that if there isn't an issue, because quite often, again, I need to make a profit. And so I have to get the properties at a discount. And the only way that I can actually earn the right to get the property at a discount is if I'm solving problems, trading quite often speed and convenience for a discounted price. So if you have a challenging tenant or if you have a challenging situation, quite often a cash investor is someone who you can go to, and they'll say, hey, Mr. Seller, if this fits our criteria and we can make a profit, what if we're able to this, and you will have to worry about the tenant, this and that, and this is the day you get paid. How does that work for you? Yeah. So every transaction is a little different, but that's one of the great things about investors. They're a great resource for folks who are looking for speed and convenience. So if you need support, this is direct towards probate, but again, one of those sides of probate is quite often there's property involved. Definitely reach out to me at Estate Pro Service. If you're interested in selling your property or need support selling your property, reach out to me as well. Love buying property, love taking a look, love solving problems, or at least attempt to solve problems. And it fulfills me. So I appreciate you out there in that world. Reach me out to me if you need any support, any help, support or help. Hit that like, subscribe, all that good stuff. The Life and Transitions Experts Podcast. We're signing off as we always do, letting you know we think you should let your light shine.